Hello, my peeps! It's Tracey here, Stampin' Demonstrator, friendly neighborhood paper pusher, and today, for Mission Monday, you get a video. Why? Because it was easier than trying to explain things in pictures. There are so many tips and tricks for using and storing stuff. I do plan, and people are always interested, and it's amazing how much I have found out over the years by seeing other people's examples, other people's craft room. Even if you don't take the whole tip, even if you take a part of the tip, or you go, oh, and it sparks a different idea that solves a problem. It's so helpful to share tips. So I really hope you guys have some tips that you can share as well. They don't have to be videos. Just write them out or post a picture or something. It would be awesome. I do plan once I'm done the purge, because as I'm getting ready for the retired product sale, I have stuff everywhere because I'm pulling out. I am deep purging this year. So but I will at some point do a tour of my craft space, my little happy place here, because I've learned all sorts of things over the years. Some I've figured out on my own, some I've got from other people. Like I said, some are just I see something somebody does and go, ooh, that's a good idea, but not that particular basket. This one I already have. Anyways, I'll share that one day soon. That's a summer project. But the other day I got all my new in color stuff, right? Got my whole schwack of things here. And I was doing my blends. And so every time I get new blends, I have a process I go through. And I thought, this is a good idea. So I'm going to show, it helps me every year. I think it's a good idea. Maybe I should preface that. So I thought I'm going to show you guys what I do when I get my blends. And I got a couple things I've made that I'm going to share if you want as well. So when you get a new set of blends, they come in the little cellophane. There's the light and the dark, right? So you pop them out and you put them in your storage rack. Now, one of the things I'm going to suggest right off the bat is when you order new stuff, when you get the order within, I think technically you have 90 days, but I would say within the first week or so, even if you don't have time to play, if you get new blends or a new ink pad or something like that, you should check it right away. Stampin' Up! Is very good with their customer service department and the quality of their products, but it is not unheard of that during the manufacturing process, one of these lids doesn't get completely clipped on or something happens to it in transit and it comes loose. If your lid is loose and your pen's been opened, these cellophane packages are not airtight. You get it and it's dried out. You want to get it back to Stampin' Up! Right away to let them know so they can replace it. I love blends. They are of all the coloring things, blends are my favorite. I use them a lot. I look at them as consumable, and so I will use them. When they run out, I replace them. And I do have a collection of spares, because it's not like both of them tend to run out at the same time. It's usually a dark or a light or something, right? So I've got a whole collection going, but I check them all right away because I want to know that when I go to grab it the next time, it's going to work. So anytime I get them, I test them all. Now, it's one thing to look at the caps and have an idea what the colors are, but I like looking at them better on a piece of paper. So this is I put this on cardstock. Okay, this isn't copy paper, this is cardstock. So it's a true representation of what it would look like if you colored some white paper. So every time I get my blends, this one's the light one, I'm going to go and I'm going to open the light one, and I'm going to go under Darling Duckling and under the light category, and I'm going to scratch a couple pieces, yep. And I'm going to go to the thick end, because you want to check both ends. And it's the same color, but I don't know, sometimes I think they look different. And then I'm going to go to the dark one, and I'm going to scribble the light or the bullet end, and then I'm going to scribble the brush end. So now I've achieved two things. I've tested my blends to make sure that they work and there's nothing faulty about them. And I now have color samples on my little chart. Twofer. And I'm going to do that. This one is the strawberry slush. We love strawberry slush. Oops, I think I call. See, I do that all the time. That would be the dark one. I didn't look because I was rushing. And this is the brush. So I'm just gonna color beside it and make it a little bit bigger, and I will probably remember or realize what I've done. I love strawberry slush. We had that color once before, so I'm quite familiar with it. Anyways, I'm going to do that with all of my colors, and I'm going to fill in my little chart. Now you'll notice that once I've done this with all my new colors, the rest of my chart is blank. Because every year I have to update this chart, because every year one of the two things of blends, of in color, sorry, changes. So what I end up with after I test all my new ones is a chart that only has 5 colors on it. But I take that as an opportunity to check all of my blends at the same time. And yes, it takes a bit of time, but quite honestly, I love to color. I have no problem just sitting there and taking out my blends and coloring. I find it very relaxing. I do have a system throughout the year as I'm using my blends and stuff. If I use my blends one day and I notice that, and I'll be able to show it to you on one of these ones here in a second. I noticed that my the nib of the brush, it's usually the brush end. Oh, that is light. The light one is just very dark. Threw me off there for a minute. If it's starting to get kind of punky, like soft and mushy, or it's squished out too much, and so I can't get a really good line with it when I color, or if sometimes one end dries out before the other. I'm not even sure how that works, but sometimes it does work that way. So it's not lack of ink, it's just not going to one end or something. I don't know. I will turn them sideways. So you should always store your alcohol markers flat. If you store them like this, gravity, right? But if you store them like this, the ink is sort of dispersed, so whichever end you pick is supposed to work. So when I set them on my shelf, they're sitting like this. So during the course of the year, if I use one of them and one end or the other is like, sometimes it's not totally gone, it's just like, ooh, this one is going, or this one end is soft, or one end is dry. I turn it this way, right? So the bad one is turned sideways. So it's the same reason I test them all at the same time. So at least I know to go use it. If I'm going to go use it, that there's something up with one of them, but I can usually use the other one. If there's something wrong with both of them, I will right away replace it. Or if it's a color I constantly use, I will right away replace it. But normally I just do this as okay, here's what we do. So then once a year, I go and I color. So I will take all of the different markers. So here, what have I got here? I've got my Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to go and I'm going to color in my Daffodil Delight. And the reason I'm using this one is because I already know, because it was already coated on my thing. See, this one's getting a little squishy on the end. And I will tell you, I use my adhesive scissors to do it. I don't use my good snips. But when they start to get a little punky, I will go and I will go like this and I will trim. Sorry, I got to pull this closer so I can see. If it starts to get a little bit dry on the end, punky's a tree term, but it just means kind of squishy and not how it's supposed to be. So I will cut the end and make it a little firmer so it colors a little better. And then I'll color the dark one. So hey, it's all going well, right? Until I get to this one, which you can probably already see. Oops, a little too close there. This end is already quite dry. I've already trimmed it a little bit. It is quite punky, or the end is dry. So when I go to color, it's like a big mushy swath. So I know that this one is a problem. And I use Daffodil Delight a lot. So I have since, that's what the sample was, I have since actually bought a new set. Now there's nothing wrong with the light one, so I'm going to use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the new one. Now I'm going to show you in a minute about labeling them. But as I'm testing these now, I know that this one has a funky dark end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my caps off my funky one, and I'm going to take my caps off my new one, and I'm going to put them on my funky one. I kind of wonder if sometimes they don't feel like they clip as well. So you do have to test them. If they don't click shut, like this one's not clicking shut for some reason. Most of them will. You can put them on and you can click them shut. The one that's the new one, I can just take the caps that I've got that are already labeled, and I can just put those on, and then I don't have to label again. For some reason, this one is loose. So I think they may have changed. They've screwed up my plan. They may have changed the just like slightly the size of the marker. But it used to work, and maybe it will on some of yours, that you could just pop this off and just swap the lids out, and then you don't have to change your labels. But I'm going to show you how we do the labeling anyways. So, like I said, I will go through all of my colors once a year and color on this sheet. So I get an updated color sheet, because then if I'm ever looking at something and I'm like, what color do I want it to be? And in my brain, I kind of know, but sometimes I need to look at the colors on a page and go, yeah, that's the color I want. Plus you get to see how these new in colors are phenomenal. I love them. So I will color this whole thing. So this Stampin' Up! Blends sheet, I am going to include in my newsletter next Tuesday. So if you would like a copy of this, I do not wish to go about having like a ton of different emails and messages and text me and all these different versions. I'm simply going to put this free blends chart that is updated for this year in my newsletter as a freebie. You can go, grab it, download, away you go. So if you would like this, most of you are probably already subscribed to my newsletter anyways, just pop into the newsletter to grab it. And if you're not subscribed, I will put a link in there so you can do it. I'm going to be super busy for the next few weeks, and private messaging is just, it's very time consuming. So here's last year's chart, right? I had colored everything in. The ones that have X's on them is because they don't have blends. I don't know why they don't have blends in some of these colors. I really wish they had blends in every color. But this is what the chart looks like all completed in. I have a spot down at the bottom for the darks, for the basics, and then all of the rest of the colors. And it just gives you a really good idea. And in case you were wondering, I have used the hex codes in Canva, and when I made all these labels, they are the exact color, the Stampin' Up! Hex code color. So these are true colors on each of these things. So your things should look somewhat like the label above them. So that's one of the things. That's the chart that I color. And then I just keep this on top of my blends. So if I'm grabbing blends or I'm not sure, I can pull out this chart and go, yeah, I want this gray, not this gray, right? The other thing I do is, I have a full size. This is part of it. With the in colors, it's slightly different. But for when I do this to begin with, I have all of the colors on one chart. And I don't even know what year I started this, so I'm not actually sure what in colors are on the original chart. And then once a year I have to make just the labels for the new in color blends. So this is also printed on cardstock. I know some people print it on copy paper. You can do that as well. But the reason I print it on cardstock is because then I go and punch it out. And I find that the punches work better on cardstock than they do on copy paper. It's your choice. Here's the other thing, and this is one of my biggest tips I'm going to give you. When I first saw this, and I can't remember how many years ago, it was somebody else's sheet. And I didn't actually like the way the other sheet worked, so I have since made my own. But I originally got this idea from somebody else. I want to say it was Angie Judah, who is Chicken Scratch, I think is her company name. She's one of the top demos in the States. And this is, we're talking probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, how as soon as blends came out, and the first ones were actually called Blendabilities. That's how long ago I got this. I have since made it, because her sheet had one row of every color. But when I do my sheets, I do 2 rows of every color. And I'll tell you why. First off, I'm going to show you what I do. So this is a 3/8 inch punch. And it is the exact size you want for the end of your blends. Now, the 3/8, this is a Stampin' Up! Punch, but I have a hard time saying that. The 3/8 inch punch is not currently available. It's a retired punch. There are probably other punches that are close, maybe a little bit bigger, different styles, different brands of whatever, but that's how they're designed to be used. I stick it on a glue dot. Pop the glue dot off. So this says Dark Darling Duckling. How many D's can Tracey get in one thing? So I'm going to put it on this end, right? So I put it on a glue dot. I use my little pokey tool, and I just poke it down, right? So now my thing is labeled Darling Duckling. So here's why I switched from 1 to 2. Because it was almost like Murphy's Law guaranteed that if I took these 2 things and put them on the shelf, when I only had one end labeled, guess what end was sticking out? Right? It didn't matter that I had a label on it. I almost never had the right label going in. Now I could make sure that every time I went to put them away, I looked to make sure that they were labeled and both labeled ends were out. But I never did that. I just, oh, I'm finished with them, pop the caps on, stick them on the shelf. The only thing I do is I make sure left is light and right is dark. I don't know why, just because that's how I have them. So that if I only go to grab one, I'm always grabbing the right one. So what I've done instead is I've just decided that for the sake of my day-to-day use, I put labels on both caps. It also helps if you're working in a group and people are popping labels off or popping lids off. You should put them on right away when you're done. You shouldn't leave them just sitting out because they will dry out. But that way you can always match your lids back up. But I put a label on either end, not just one. That's what I do. So I'll go through. And again, this is just, it might take oh, I don't even know if it takes an hour, but each year, once a year, I will print these labels off. I will test all my markers. I'll put all the new ones on, and I do that right away. And then, provided I have the time on that particular day, which I can usually make time, I will go and pull down my little racks, and I will try every one of the colors. The reason I want to know ahead of time, the reason I turn one sideways, and the reason I do this once a year is if I'm doing something, and let's say there's free shipping, and I've got just about enough to qualify. Usually free shipping, you have to have a $100 minimum order. Well, let's say I need $80 worth of something, or that's on my top of my list. Well, I got to get to 100 for free shipping. Well, I can very quickly look at my blends and know which ones I need to replace. Oh, I'll just throw a couple pairs of blends on. Now I'm over free shipping, and I've just saved myself that money. And chances are the free shipping is going to pay for one pair of blends, right? Like the cost of it would be. But I just like to have it ready. I like to have sort of a running list of things I need to add if I ever need to top up an order, or like a really great deal comes on and you need to get that amount to a certain part. So that's what I do. And now then when I go, so now I do this, it takes me one day, or I do it on one day, it doesn't take me the whole day. I do this, and I'm good for the whole rest of the year as I'm crafting. My stuff is labeled, I can go grab it. I'll take a picture of my blends rack afterwards, you'll see how slick it is. So that it's the Stampin' Up! Blends rack, but with all the labeled, and I put mine in rainbow order if that matters to anybody. Everybody has a different method for doing that. Anyways, it's such a great idea. So here's one other thing that I am going to offer you, and I'm only going to offer it to 5 people. I think it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. I don't want to waste paper, right? Once you put paper through the photocopier, it gets kind of coated with stuff, so you shouldn't use it for your stamping. So I just went whatever. So I just make the whole sheet in colors. So I have 5 more sets of these labels. I didn't want a bunch of pieces, but I'll do it this way so it's easier to see what I'm talking about. So I have 5 more sets of these labels for anybody who wants to add labels to their blends. If you got new blends but you didn't want to, you don't have the template, or you don't want to run a whole other sheet. I have 5 of these. Now I'm not going to punch them out for you, because then there'll be pieces everywhere and you'll lose one, and nope. But for the first 5 people who comment on the post, I will, and then we'll figure out afterwards if I have your address already or not. And if not, then you'll have to message me. But some of you, I might already have your address. I will mail these little things out. I might have to cut them in half. I don't know if this actually fits in an envelope. I might have to cut it in half. But I will mail these little chunks of cardstock already printed out with the 5 new in colors on them to the first 5 people who post on this post saying they would like them. And yes, if I don't have your email address or mailing address, I will ask for it, and then I will pop them in the mail and just send them out to you. Okay? So that's just, okay, there's probably more than one tip in there, but here's another tip for you. Blends are awesome to color with. Buy blends. Yeah, I love blends, as I said. So, 3/8 inch punch. A sheet that I have that I make with labels on them. That's how you label them. And then in next week's newsletter, for anybody who's subscribed to my newsletter, is my Stampin' Up! Blends chart, which I color every year. It's a good way to test your blends. Good way to have a reference. There we go. That's my tips for you for today. I hope you will share your tips. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And I will be back next week with another Mission Monday. Thanks, folks. Bye.